Hello everybody, Headspace Connections here, back again with another video. This time we're going to be talking more along the lines of how to deal with littles or children alters in systems. Now this information can apply to anybody in general as to go about on how to dealing with them. Now the thing about littles or child alters, obviously as implied, they are children of a system, and treat them like you would a biological child. Yes, sometimes they can have, I guess, more understanding of some things, and because they do come from an older mind, they can understand more complicated subjects or concepts as opposed to what a biological child could. But overall, treat them like a child. You know, you're not going to treat a little 4-year-old kid and teach them like adult concepts. That just doesn't work. They may understand what you're saying, but they're not going to understand what it is that you're talking about. Now, particularly when you're going more in towards the, I guess, more toddler years, like 1, 2, 3, 4, around there, and or sometimes even infant alters. Sometimes these alters can't talk, they can't walk, and or know how to be independent without the help of another adult. But some of them can. There are some that know, like, almost instinctively how to take care of themselves. Majority of our littles do, just because of the fact, when I was younger, I was raised, having to take care of myself. So most of our children are pretty good about knowing how to take care of things, but not all of them will. Now, obviously, don't break up anything in SFW or anything overly sexual in content. Try to limit your swearing if possible. I know sometimes it can be hard, especially if it's a really bad habit, but try. And don't say anything that you wouldn't say to a little kid. Everybody has enough common sense to know there are just some subjects that little kids just don't need to hear. Now, for overall how to deal, there is no cookie cutter way in personally dealing with littles. The best advice I can tell you about that is to ask the system you're dealing with in general, like how to go about dealing with them, because what works for one system is not going to work for another one. One system's littles could have, they could like stuffed animals, they could love hugs, cuddles, whatever. But then if you take that same concept from this system and put it to another one where cuddles and stuffed animals could be something completely negative for another little, it's probably not going to end up well. So from those that are systems or are friends of systems or family, whatever, of systems, ask them personally. More than likely, they're not going to be offended by it. If anything, they're going to be elated at the fact that you're curious enough to actually want to understand. But ask the system, the host, whoever, about how the children work and what they prefer, and especially if something happens. Now, some of you, if you guys are familiar with the entropy system, they are a DID system. They have various social media platforms, and they're also very popular on YouTube. Now, there was a thing that happened not very long ago, maybe a few days ago, that one of the littles from their system was on Instagram and posted a what do they call story, posted on their story that they were looking for friends and they wanted to play or talk. And there are different situations that comes to my mind when it comes to dealing with kids. You know, sometimes systems, you can't control your switches 100% of the time. Sometimes some that come out are not supposed to be out, and they're going to probably cause a little chaos. But children alters and systems are just the same way as, I guess you call them outside children. You know, so they want friends too. They want friends their own ages. They want to be able to play with kids their own age as they personify as in their system. Now, when it's something like that, say a little kid just kind of fell through the cracks in between the protectors and came to the front and, you know, without anybody noticing, and it's like, hey, does anybody want to be friends? Or I need some friends, you know. Usually when it's something like that, going to messaging them back and saying, hey, maybe you should find an adult because this is kind of dangerous, and kind of talk to them, tell them to find the nearest adult if possible. But here's a situation that you don't hear about very often, and this has actually happened to us before. We're friends with a system, particularly a little altar. We won't give names or too much details, but there was a situation that happened one time where this little one ended up being front stuck. She was by herself. There was nobody else around. She couldn't get a hold of anybody. And I'm not really sure the relation between these two altars is, but I know that she was terrified, you know, one, being by herself, and two, I think there was one of their persecutor altars that was close by that terrified her. So she messaged us. It had like been the second time that she had talked to us, but she messaged us and was telling us, it's like, hey, I need a friend, I'm scared, you know. And we're like, okay, what's going on? Now, in this kind of situation, if the little is front stuck, especially with a precarious situation where there's possibly a persecutor that's on the verge of taking over, you can't get an adult. This kid cannot get an adult. They are stuck where they are. Of course, it's because of their panic, if it's, you know, if there's a situation like that involved. But if that's the case, at that point, the best thing that you can do is to try to calm them down enough that they can get those walls, barriers, whatever you want to call them, down enough so that somebody can come back out to the front, an adult figure of some kind, and help them. And that's basically what we did. When we realized it's like she couldn't get a hold of anybody, she was basically stuck in a dark space by herself, and she was terrified. So what are you going to do with that? You know, you're going to try to help the kid calm down until somebody can get there. And that's basically what we did. We stuck with her. We'd play imaginary games or something with her, like trying to help her feel stronger so that she wouldn't be so panicked, to try to help calm her down enough to get those barriers down so that somebody else could show up and hopefully get to her in time before said persecutor ended up taking over. But it took a while. We talked to her, I think, for maybe about, I think it was close to 3 hours before somebody took over for her, and they finally messaged us back saying, hey, we found her, you know, everything's okay now, thanks for, you know, staying with her as long as you did, and help keep her calm and safe while we were taking care of some things, you know. Because I started to panic for a little bit because you know, we were talking to her straight 3 hours, and then all of a sudden nothing for like 10 minutes. We're like, oh my god, please tell me something bad hasn't happened. And that was when they responded back to me. One of their protectors of their system responded back telling me everything was okay finally. So I was like, that was a huge relief off my shoulders. Now, in situations like that, it's like there's usually one of two. It could be many more different situations, but those are the ones that I've heard, seen, or we have experienced ourselves. And a message, I guess, for children, alters, and littles in systems, if you guys are watching this with your adults or watching this in general because you're bored and YouTube's cool. Be very, very careful if you're on social media. I know you guys want to have friends, and I know it's hard being in an adult body when you're a little kid, but please be very careful. Just because you are in an adult body, it does not make you less prone to predators. You know, people who have certain issues will go after whoever they want to. So please be very careful. If you're looking for a friend or somebody to talk to, you can talk to us. We don't mind. Our messages are always open. We always try to respond back. If you start feeling lonely or want to talk to somebody, feel free to message us. That's okay. We don't mind. But if you're in a situation where you're by yourself, you're at the front, and you're not really sure, what to do or what's going on, please look for an adult. If you can't find somebody inside, if you're stuck by yourself, find somebody outside that you can trust. And if you don't have anybody on the outside you can trust, try to find somebody that you guys are friends with, or friends of the host that you guys can trust. You can text them, you can message them, tell, hey, I'm scared, please help me. Or as I said, if you need to, you can also message us too. We really don't mind, but please be very careful, please. I cannot stress it enough that the world can be a very hurtful place. So I know you shouldn't have to live with that in mind, but just be careful. And if at all possible, do not ever be by yourself if you can help it. But if something happens you can't avoid sometimes, then it's understandable. But like I said, if you're ever stuck in a situation where you're by yourself and you don't have anybody to talk to and you're scared, you can always message us if you don't have anybody on the outside that you can trust. But that's all we have for today on communicating with littles. Hopefully it was insightful and helpful. But like I said, for those of you who may know systems or are friends of other systems and you're not really quite sure how to deal with them or how to go about talking to them and treating them, just ask them. Who's going to know better than them? Just ask. There's no harm in doing it. And like I said, sometimes people will even feel happy at the fact that you're even asking, since this is such a very stigmatized disorder. But I hope you guys have a good day or night wherever you guys are, and we'll see you next time. Bye.